G'day and welcome back to the shed and to part 2 of this Philips BX02A. Even the number's complicated, but it's gone pretty well so far. Part 1, after cleaning the contacts and a bit of fettling, it did spring to life. We got some sound out of it. In fact, it sounded pretty good. It does have some hum behind it though, and I at first thought that wasn't filter caps, but I'm now thinking it is. And it's got some weird stuff happening where the volume won't reduce when you turn it down. It seems to be overdriving the output valve. There are some paper caps that everyone's told me that have to go on the plate of the output valve, and there's a strange coupling cap on the grid as well, which I'm not sure what to make of. It looks like a resistor. It's got little color code things on it. I haven't come across them before. I'm starting to suspect that that's putting some voltage on the grid because of the weird stuff that's happening. So I think the first thing I've got to do is just get into the caps, and I'm going to start with the filter caps. Now they're all in this big can here that holds up the ferrite aerial, and at first I was looking at there's 100 and a 50 in there. I was thinking of putting two 47s in for the 100 and another 47 to make up the 50 of Cole's capacitors. They weren't going to fit in the can, so obviously I was going to have to fit them under the chassis somewhere. But I checked the local electronics shop, and miracles, they have this. This is a 100 UF at 400 volts. Now this is 250 volts, so it's that's going to fit in the can. This is a 50 UF at 400 volts. If I'm really lucky, I think I can get these two to fit in the can. It's going to be tight though. I'm not sure how I'll go. Now these are some odd brand Topcon. I haven't come across it before. I don't know if they're any good. I certainly hope so. Anyway, let's get this happening. Have a look at this filter cap and see where we go with it. Now first of all, here's the filter cap, this big can here. That has a 100 microfarad and a 50 microfarad in it, all at 250 volts. So the first thing is to get this bracket off the top that holds up the ferrite antenna here. It just holds on with a screw by the looks of it. Let's see if we can get it off. Everything's very old and crusty on this radio. Oh no, that's loosening. That might be alright. It still doesn't want to come off. There we go. And that just attaches this bracket. I thought they were all in one piece, but they're clearly not. I have to be very careful not to damage anything here, especially when I turn it upside down to work on the can, which I'm going to have to do now. So I think I'll just tape this in place so it just doesn't go falling about. Okay, I've taped this on as best I can. I'm pretty satisfied that it won't fall off. I've taken the magic eye off, disconnected the speaker. I think that's about it. So now let's turn it upside down and see if we can get at this thing. All filter caps are just down here in this corner. Someone told me that this cover for the FM module had a spring clip of some kind on it, which was particularly difficult to deal with. And I can see that, yeah, just pushing it on like that probably isn't adequate. I'll have to see if I can find a way of holding that firmly in place without cluttering up the chassis too much or shorting anything out. There should be a way of doing it. I'm just not sure yet how I'm going to do it. Okay, so this is it down here. It's held in by 3 tabs through the chassis, one of which has a blob of solder on it. Should be easy enough to get out. Famous last words, of course, but we'll give it a go. So I've cut off the wires and labelled them according to which cap they go to. So these are all 50. This green wire is the only one that goes to 100, and it goes to the cathode of the rectifier. So it's easy to remember. This should be straightforward from here on. I've still got to cut off the ground, but I've just noticed something that I don't like much at all. These bent over tabs on this cap, like this one here, are not just your usual tabs. They seem to be designed in such a way that they deform when you bend them. This piece here is bent outwards and this one here's bent backwards. It appears to be designed to break off if you should try to remove them, and I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. I don't have much choice anyway, it has to come out, so I guess I'll just try and do it as gently as possible, but it does look as if this centre piece here, which is the only bit that holds it in, a very small piece, will snap if you look at it. There doesn't seem to be any way to get this out apart from breaking it off. Perhaps if I can just ease this around a little bit. I'm going to try and get some vice grips onto it and just flatten it. It just broke off. Now this one has solder over it as well, so I don't see how or what my chances are of getting the solder off that and getting it through. I think I've got basically zero chance. So unfortunately I've broken off the tabs. I'm not sure how I'm going to fix that. I'll have to have a think about it. Maybe I can make something up for it, or repair this one. I'm not sure. Cross that bridge when we come to it. Meanwhile, I've managed to roll the edge up enough to get this ring out and pull the guts out of it. But before I do that, I thought I'd check it and just see how it measures. So just put a ground on here. That'll do. Let me see, the triangle is a 50. That's this one, so I'll try it first and see what we get. Don't know if that is very easy to read, but it says 26 microfarads, 26.01, and an ESR of 1.1 ohms, V loss 0.3%. I'm not sure exactly what the V loss equates to in terms of health of the capacitor, but it's half its rated value and fairly high ESR, so I'll just push the button again. Okay, so let's have a look at the 100, obviously the other one, and we'll just push it again, see what we get. So it's 51.14 microfarads, ESR of 1, V loss 0.6%. Again, I'm not sure exactly how that relates to the health of the capacitor, and of course we don't know how leaky it is really directly from those, but it is not healthy, half its rated value, and with a pretty high ESR. So I guess the next thing is to try and get this out of its can. I'll try using a screwdriver to prise the ring out. Maybe that's going to pop out. Yep, there we go. And we'll see how reluctant this is to come out. I'll grab a decent pair of pliers and pull. That's not budging. Try and dig around the edge. Not sure how thick this rubber is. It's kind of through it there. Maybe I can prise it up this way. Nope. I can probably manage to injure myself trying to do this though. Nope. Here we go, possibly. I'll try and get in underneath that, whatever it is. Okay, here we go. It's still apparently relatively moist inside. It's kind of like a stiff paste. It's not willing to budge though. There may be a ground strap. Yeah, here we go. Ground strap just there. Alright, I'll grab that and see if I can pull that out. Whoa! Yep, there we have it. So I'll just clean this out and see what we can do. Well, that was a dismal failure. I've made up this couple of capacitors and I thought it would fit, but nope, it's just a bit too long. Once I put the plate in the end, there's no way that's going to fit in there. So I'm stuck with a can that I've broken the tabs off and capacitors that won't fit in it. I would have been better off to leave the can in the radio, just disconnected the leads and put the two caps inside the chassis. But it's done now, and since this thing holds up the aerial, it has to go back in somehow. Okay, I'll be the first to admit this is a truly horrible piece of metal butchery, but it will work. The tabs do fit through the slots in the chassis. I tried them, and it does fit in the top of the can. So that will have to be that. Hopefully won't be seen anyway. So now I think the best thing to do is to put one of these capacitors in the can and the other one under the chassis. Okay, this is not going to be the world's most elegant solution. It's more the sort of thing you do when you're desperate and you've broken something, which pretty much describes the situation. So I put the 100 mic cap in here, put a hole through here for the earth and another one right next to that pin. This is a piece of flooring vinyl left over from the bus, and it fits around there, leaving a gap for venting, I suppose. To make up this open end, I've got another piece of flooring vinyl from the bus, and rolled up in the end it will just fit neatly in there like so. This whole thing will fit nicely in the can, and if I'm careful that whole thing will just snick up shut. It's stopping a bit short there, something's balking it, I'll see. Okay, it seemed easier to put the vinyl inside first, so I'll do that. And now we should be able to just insert this. Okay, we're getting there. That needs to be soldered. This I might just cut off, or I might just leave it as a connector. I don't know if I'll need one, but I'll leave it there anyway for the moment. Well, there it is, back in its can. Let's hope it can get it back in the chassis without any dramas. Okay, so that will actually go in. It's amazing. Well, there's a second cap in. I held it in with a bit of silicone because I didn't have too many options. If it had been a slightly smaller cap, it would have been a lot easier. I probably could have got a strap around it or something, but this seemed the best option I had, so there it is, and it does just fit in there. I'll tell you what though, it's shoehorned in there pretty tightly. Okay, having done that, I suppose I better test it. So I've got it plugged in, dim bulb, turn it on, got the bench speaker connected and an aerial on it, and got a bright glow from the bulb, dimming down, and hopefully it'll start to do something soon. Pulling 20 watts at the moment, which looks reasonably healthy considering it's on dim bulb. And here we go.
That's what's on action on Rod Labour Arena at the moment.
It seems to work reasonably well on dim bulb. Still pulling 20 watts. I'll go off dim bulb and just see how we go. And we've gone to
history, so this is Alcott's
49 watts.
Meanwhile, Sam Schroeder, he's chasing what would be a fourth consecutive title here at the Australian Open. So really these are
now another problem I've got.
The number 1 and the number 2 seed, and at the moment they're on court.
I can't talk over that. Another problem I've got is that was minimum volume. There's something seriously not happening with this volume pot. I can't turn it down any further than that. So I don't really know what's going on with that. That will be another job to do. I'll have to pull it out and see if there's something mechanically wrong with it. otherwise we're tracing a rather weird fault. While I'm in here, I may as well replace these two paper caps. Everyone tells me that they have to go, and there's another one just here. So I'll get on and replace those two and then see if it makes any difference. And then the next thing I'll have to do is pull out this pot. The pot does have pieces of Band-Aid stuck to it, so it looks like it may have been messed with before. I don't know what's going on there. Might have to replace it.
That's true.
Well, I've replaced these, and as you can probably hear, it's running all right, so I haven't done anything drastically wrong. That is still minimum volume. I can't turn it down any further, and it's on dim bulb. What I might do is check some voltages. Okay, I'm going to go off dim bulb. It's going to get a bit loud, but I can't do much about that. And I just want to check what's on the cathode, see if I need to change that cathode bypass cap.
Yep, I'm going to serve against him. There's no chance of getting it back. The pros only get one serve, the amateurs get two serves. So if the amateur decides to serve first, they do at least get a fault.
And it's still pulling 51 watts.
All over in an hour and 10 minutes or whatever it is.
So let's have a look at this cathode.
To see, someone from the suburbs come out and try and win a point off a tour pro. And the crowds for it were excellent. It was a great television product.
4.5 volts.
One out the back, a little small arena. I think you could easily advertise it properly and do it in some of the days leading up, and you could feel.
I think try it on FM.
On the road.
That should be on FM. Not picking anything up. Is that FM? Maybe I pushed the wrong key. Not sure what's happening there. We did have FM reception before. I don't see why we would have lost it. In any case, I'll see what that cathode's got on it. 4.1. Okay. So after cleaning the valve sockets and whatever, I now have FM back. I wiggled a couple of valves and they were crackly, and FM came back intermittently.
Stop, easy famous.
I think there is a bit of distortion there. So what to do next? I might change the FM discriminator cap, which is this one here. See if it makes any difference to the distortion, but I think it's probably an alignment problem. Something I'm not looking forward to, but I'll work it out. But I think I really need to deal with this potentiometer, the volume pot. Can't turn it down. So I think, yeah, I'll have to get it out of the chassis and just see if I can do anything to fix it. Now, I notice these have got these little screws in them, and they, I think, are actually just spindle extensions. I'll see, but I suspect that this might pull off. Yes. Okay, so that is a spindle extension. I'll put it and it screw away somewhere safe. Now we need to get this out. Now with that extension off, I should be able to push the pot backwards and out, hopefully without disrupting anything too much. Okay, so can't see anything wrong with the connections on it. Nothing appears to be shorting or anything. It does have a tapping over here. Unfortunately, that's, if I can't fix this, I'll have to work out what to do with that. The other thing is, of course, the power switch leads, so I'll just take them off the back, and while I'm working on this, if I can get it fixed, I may as well fit a proper cord. Okay, here we are. It says on it M4 plus 1M6 log, so I guess it's a 1.6 meg. 80p, that might be 80% something or other. First of all, I'm going to check it with the meter and see if we're still getting the same result both from the switch and just see what the pot itself measures. Okay, so first of all let's just see what we've got across it. We should see allegedly 1.6 meg perhaps. Let's just see. 1.9 it just said there, 2. So with it rotated fully anti-clockwise, which should be a low resistance between these two, let's just see what we get. $19K, $26K, it's not too sure. It's all over the place, and at this point we've got 1.9 meg. Okay, so turning it back the other way, $240 ohms and 2.1 meg. Well, if nothing else, it needs a good clean. I guess I'll start with the switch and see what becomes visible when I get that out. There we go. And I presume these are, well, they are equally spaced. I better mark it or I won't remember which way around it goes. So this one goes, the centre, the one opposite the wiper goes between these two contacts. Alright, I can remember that, hopefully. Let's see what we got in here. Okay, well that looks pretty conventional. And this is just a straightforward switch. That should be making contact there. And that now isn't. Maybe just a spray of deoxit in there. I'll just cycle it a few times and see how we go. Just grab this little gadget and just see what it measures now. Zero ohms, and this one here 0.6, 0.5, 0.4, 3, yeah. So that seems to have done the trick. Okay, so looking in here, I can access the track and the wiper of the pot. It's directly through here, so I'm not going to try and pull the top off it. I'll give that a squirt as well and just see if it makes any difference to what we're getting out of it. I can turn that around and get a squirt in up this end of the track, and I'll just work it a bit. Okay, I'm getting some pretty bizarre readings. So looking at the top, this should be, with the thing rotated fully left, this should be approaching 0 ohms between these two, between the wiper and the right hand end of the pot, or the bottom of the pot. And it's open. I turn it around a little bit further and we've got 0.9 of a meg. Goes down to 0.5. It's a pretty inconsistent. So the lowest that will go is 1.7k off ground. If you turn it a little bit, it just goes open. I could work it a bit more, just see if we get any improvement out of it with the deoxit, but it may just be too far gone. Looking at the other end of the pot, the top end of it, turned right up, goes down to 250 ohms, which is probably okay, and increases as you turn it up. So that's probably okay. It's the bottom end of the range that it's a problem. I'm going to hook up the analog meter and just see how it looks on that. Okay, with the analog meter, and I've got it at the bottom of the pot now, turned fully down, and you can see it's all over the place. It's not even consistent in the middle of the range. I don't know how bad these probes are. Perhaps it's something to do with them. I doubt it. Okay, so that's now showing 0 at the bottom of the range, which is, I'll put it back down to 1 ohm, and it's still about less than a K, but times 10, yeah, it's just over a K. Yeah, we're getting nothing there now. Just looking at this, I suspect it's the connection from the bottom end of the pot to the track. So when I wiggle that around, it varies all over the place, and I think it's possibly, well, it looks like it's probably riveted onto the track somehow there. It's not a dirty connection, I've cleaned it. I guess I'll take these tabs off, see if I can see what's happening there. Nothing to lose. So that's the rivet we're talking about. Can't see any fracture between it and the track. Maybe if I just give that rivet a bit of a hit and try and close it up, see if that makes any difference. Okay, so I just gave that rivet a hit with a punch and a small hammer, and the best I can get is about 750 ohms off the end of the pot, and it's very touchy, of course, goes up from there, but it does seem to be more consistent than what it was. Okay, so I've just tacked the pot back in. I want to see whether it works satisfactorily or not before I go to any more trouble. I haven't worried about the switch. I've just hooked the power up to the transformer wires here, done away with the old power cord that's disconnected. So I'm just going to turn it on and just see what happens, see if it's going to be usable with this pot or whether I'm going to need to swap it for something else. Put it on dim bulb, just in case I've done anything very silly. I don't think I have, but you never think you have. Alright, bang. Nothing remarkable yet. Just nothing's going to bite me. I'm not sure if that's on FM or AM. The first button I think is FM, isn't it? Probably won't work. I'll try AM.
Seriously, we've got about 8 minutes before we head across to the Australian Open final at Melbourne Park.
Well, that's fine on dim bulb. Let's put it on full power. And it's now seeing 237 volts, drawing 50 watts.
What are your thoughts on this? The proposal of a 2-tier test system, which has been put forward by a few representatives of the Indian, Australian
and that stops it entirely when it's down. So that's great, that's working.
Proposing a 2-tier test system where...
Okay, let's just try it on FM.
Mooney's 5 off 4, Vol 1 off 2. Beautiful conditions here tonight, Bluey. Couldn't ask for a better surface or better conditions.
Yep, 0 volume. Good, I'll hook up the power and put the pot back in. Alright, so I've fitted a new cord. It's got a strain relief just around here off the back. Earth onto this tab here. I've fitted a fuse holder in it. I thought I might as well while I'm in there. So let's just see how it goes. That's on. There we go, the dim bulb's lighting up. So the switch is working okay, nothing's going bang.
You get one chance. If you don't take it, good luck. I feel Madison Keys has let a chance slip by. Whether she gets another one, we shall see.
5-2, 15 loves. Have a link out to the back.
Now notice it's now drawing 209 milliamps on FM, 47 watts. On AM, it should go down a little bit, 45.
Third and deciding set for the championship.
But the voltage getting through to is 227, so that's a bit unusual. Must be unusual power demand due to the hot weather. The mains voltage is usually around 235 to 240. Anyway, that's all working pretty well. Not too worried about anything there. What am I going to do next? I'm a bit concerned about the distortion in the FM. Now, I will attempt an alignment probably tomorrow. But I think I'll change the discriminator cap and see if it makes any difference. Just listening to it, the FM still does seem a bit distorted. So this is the one we're after. This electrolytic here goes from pin 7 to pin 2 of the BC80, so we've got two diodes facing in reverse directions, and this side of it is grounded. So this is going to be it here. Just cut him, and it's supposed to be 4 microfarads, 6.4 volts, and 4 microfarad. 64 volts. That's all right. These ones are 4.7 at 50 volts. I don't suppose I've got anything closer. I'll just check my capacitors. Okay, I don't suppose it'll make much difference, but this is 4.7 at 63 volts. The original was at 64 volts, but it was 4 UF. So I'll just pop this in and just see how we go with it. Well, it seems to be going pretty well. I'm not still 100% sure whether the FM's as undistorted as it could be. Some stations sound good, others sound a little bit questionable. One other thing I want to deal with while I'm mucking around with the chassis is this dial lamp. Now, it is a bayonet fitting, and I can't get one anywhere. I went to the local electronics shop. They didn't have anything in a bayonet fitting at that voltage. So what I'm going to do is take this off, and I'm going to attach a screw-in fitting to in the same spot, and hopefully that will solve our problem, because I would like to have a dial light there. That should be alright there. I think it's a little bit further over to the left than the other globe, but I don't think it'd be a problem so long as it doesn't heat up this dial drum too much and burn the cord. So power is on. Yeah, there we go. It is a little bit close to that dial cord actually. I just bend it back a bit this way. A bit more like that. That might be better. Yep. One other thing that's been bothering me are these yellow push buttons. I've tried cleaning them. Doesn't do very much. This one here I tried some metal polish on. Sorry, Brasso on. This one here I rubbed with very fine emery paper, 1200 grit, and then polished it. It's a little bit lighter. It's still not perfect. These two middle ones I haven't done anything much with apart from just a wipe over. I don't know. I could possibly sandpaper this one a little bit more down with very fine grit sandpaper. I'm tempted to try the hydrogen peroxide method that Dave Tipton uses. It works for him, but that would mean taking these things out, putting them in a plastic bag in the sun with some peroxide, and then reassembling the whole thing. I could possibly just put plastic over them and leave them in the sun with peroxide on them. I don't have any hydrogen peroxide, and last time I went to buy some at the chemist it was pretty expensive. I think they wanted $50 for a bottle of it. That's the gel type stuff, and I don't think the liquid would be much good. I don't know. I'll give it one more try to clean them up, but that looks pretty awful. The knobs, by comparison, are quite good. Now these haven't even been cleaned, but they're whiter than the buttons, so I would like to have them at least roughly the same colour. Well, it's Monday morning and a public holiday, the day after Australia Day, where we all drink too much and watch the fireworks, and I imagine there will be a lot of sore heads around this morning, but mine isn't one of them because we didn't go to the fireworks. So it's about time I had a look at this FM alignment, and I must admit I don't like doing these, but Manuel Caldera makes them look like child's play, so look, if he can do it, I can probably bumble through it. Now, the big problem with doing any sort of alignment on any Philips radio is these transformers here. They reputedly disintegrate if you look at them sideways. Now, I spent a bit of time last night very carefully with one of these cleaning the wax out from around the edge, and I put just a drop of deoxit down each one. And this morning, and I'm not going to demonstrate, but I am able to actually turn them. These are the two FM ones that I needed to deal with. This one here is the one that balances the diodes in the ratio detector. This is an IF. Over here we have two more IFs, FM IFs. They're easy to pick. I've gone through the instructions, and it turns out the AM ones are the ones with these red screws on the top. The FM ones are the ones with the holes in the top. So here's the alignment instructions, which I got off Radio Museum's site, and as you can see, I've resorted to crayons to work out what I'm doing. Up here I've coloured the AM ones in yellow, the first stage of the FM in red, and the second stage in green. So the FM starts down here. IF adjustment. Now it calls this trimming point at 100 megacycles. I think that's just where you set the dial to. I'm really not sure. I don't know what it means. Push button 1, which is FM, must be on. Okay, so signal 10.7 megacycles into grid 1 B3. Now B3 is the EF85, so into the grid of the EF85. And now there's a little asterisk thing there, and the asterisk says connect two resistors of 0.22 megohms, 1%, in series across C38. Now C38 is the electrolytic across the two diodes in the ratio detector. Connect the diode voltmeter. I guess well, any voltmeter would have to do. I guess one that measures DC, diode voltmeter, DV, between the junction of the two resistors and the junction of C34 and R13. I haven't found them yet, but I think they'll be pretty easy to find. So that's pretty much conventional. That's the way I've seen it done on other videos. Thanks, Manuel. Now, it says to adjust S20, which is the IF coil only, for maximum output. So then it says to adjust S22 and S23 for 0 volts deviation on the the diode voltmeter. Now S22, 23 is this coil here. So that's the one on the left nearest the ABC80. For the second part of the alignment, and this is pretty much just straight IF alignment, put the input into the grid of B2. Now B2 is the ECH81, and you adjust the second IF 16 and 17. But there's a double asterisk here, and it says down here, remove the resistors of 0.22 megohms and connect the diode voltmeter again across C38. So you're measuring across the capacitor across those two diodes. Now this is S16 and S17. I haven't yet attempted to loosen the slugs in this, and if I can't, I'm going to leave it well alone because I'm very wary of these things. I did clean them out, and I put a drop of deoxit in them, but I haven't tried to move them yet this morning. I'll just see how we go. If they move gently. If I can't move them, I'm going to leave them alone. Now it says to connect the signal generator to the grid of the EF85, and that's going to be, the EF85 is this one with between the two sets of cans, and the grid is on pin 2. This thing's got a shield across the middle of it. There's the gap there, so pin 1, pin 2 will be here, and that seems right because that goes to the IF can, so we'll hook it on there, and yeah, this can go to ground anywhere. Make sure it's got a good contact there. 10.7 megahertz, there we go. Amplitude 5 volts peak to peak's probably a bit much. 1 volt peak to peak, how about that? I've got no idea really, it doesn't say what amplitude, but you're going straight onto the grid, so you don't want to blast it. Now, what it doesn't tell you to do, what I'm going to do nevertheless, is put an FM modulated tone on that and make sure it's getting through the radio. FM frequency 100 hertz, we'll make that 400. So deviation 0.25 megahertz. There we go. Let's just turn the radio on and see if we hear that coming out the speaker. The speaker's still hooked up. We'll plug it in to the dim bulb. Okay, I've now connected that to the grid via a capacitor, a 0.00122, something like that. That should do the trick. I think it was just pulling down the grid. I'll put the output on, and that didn't happen. Hang on. Oh, overload protect. It says it's overloading the output. I don't like that. What is going on here? Okay, I've disconnected the lead and it's still going overload protect. The output is off. So I can't output anything. Have I set this up wrong? What am I doing? Just turn the signal generator off. It's very hot. There's also a slight burning smell which I don't like. Hope I haven't lost this. Well, channel 2 seems to be working. So far I've got 10.7 megahertz. I can't use modulation on channel 2 though. It says channel 2 does not support. Okay, so I can just put a straight 10.7 megahertz signal. I do worry about that getting hot. Alright, so what happens if we plug a lead in here? Of course I won't be able to put a tone on it and hear if it's coming out, but oops, channel 2, and I guess I can check with the scope to see if it's operating. I think my signal generator's dead. And I can smell a nasty burning smell, and that's hot as. Alright, okay, so if I can't use the Rigol, I'll revert to the old leader, and I've set that to range E, and 10.7 should be about there. There is a little arrow on the dial there that probably indicates 10.7. In fact, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so there's 2, 4, 6, 7 would be about there, so that would probably be 10.7, that little arrow. I'll set it as accurately as I can. Now I'm just going to check on the scope what's coming out of that, because I haven't really used this before. I haven't had it for very long. And on the scope we've got something that looks a bit more like what we'd expect. I don't know if that'll trigger. Yep. There we go. Does seem to have a bit of, oh yeah, it'll be modulated, AM modulated. Okay, so what if I turn modulation off? There we go. So next thing I want to do is just check the accuracy of that frequency, so I'll plug it into the frequency counter and see what we're getting there. Okay, the clunky old Victor signal frequency counter says I've got 10.5 megahertz. I'll just see if I can tweak this up to 10.7. Just breathe on the knob slowly, gently. 10.6945 megahertz. That's pretty good. 10.703. That'll do. No doubt about it, the old stuff keeps going. This thing would be made in 1960 something, I guess. Works well. And the old Dick Smith oscilloscope that I got for $50 5 years ago is still working as well. Anyway, so we'll proceed with this as best we can. The next problem I've got is how to get the 10.7 megahertz into the radio. The output of this is just banana plugs, and the only thing I've got is just meter leads, so it's still seeing 10.7 megahertz. I don't know how noisy that is, it's probably horrible. Let's have a quick look at it on the scope, see if I think it's going to be alright. There it is. That's pretty good for a 1960s signal generator. And go down to 5 per division. That's about 10 millivolts output. And that's about 5 millivolts there. I can run it on 5 millivolts. It looks like a nice clean output at that level, so alright, let's do that. Okay, so I've connected my meter across the cap, the discriminator cap or ratio detector cap, and I am getting a reading on it, so that's something I can possibly work with. The next thing is to turn this whole show upside down so I can adjust the coils. That's going to be fun. This is the most basic setup you could get, but rather than use 2 cameras, I've just decided to keep the meter in shot. And the first thing we have to do is adjust this second coil just for maximum. This is just peaking an IF really. But this is the tricky bit. Let's just hope that this coil will turn. It did yesterday. Yes, I can turn it. That doesn't seem to be changing much though. I'll put this on a lower range. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely going down. Coming back up. That's its peak right there. Alright, that's about as good as I can do it. So the next thing it says is to connect 2 resistors of 0.22 meg in series across C38, that's that cap, and the voltmeter between the junction of the 2 resistors and the junction of C34 and R13. So here's C34, there's R13, so R13's 47k, and that's a 1k, I guess 1000 picofarads to ground. Okay, so I didn't have 2.22 meg resistors, so I've got 2.27 meg ones. They both check out within less than 1% of each other, so that should be alright. Now, this resistor R13, here we are, yellow, violet, orange, so that will be that one. It's 47k, and there is a capacitor going just behind the tag strip there to ground off it. You can see it there. Oh, there it is there. So that'll be it. So the junction of the capacitor and the resistor. Alright, so that will be just there. I wonder if I can get it without shorting anything. There we go, that should be alright. I don't think that's going to touch anything. Of course I have to turn it upside down, which makes it difficult. That should be safe enough there, like that. Okay, so I've turned the whole show upside down, hopefully without damaging anything. It's on and warmed up, and we're looking at between the junction of those 2 resistors and the junction of the capacitor and R13, and I am getting a small amount of deflection on the meter, not an awful lot. So now the trick is to turn this gadget until that reads 0 or as close to 0 as possible. So let's just try that. It is turning. That's going down a little bit, I think. I don't know. I can't see that that's making any difference. Okay, another possible method is to put an AM modulated signal into this thing and adjust that for the lowest audio output. So I'll see if we can hear anything for a start. This generator will do an AM modulated signal, and there it is. You can hear it. Put the output up a bit. And I'll see if I can adjust this for lower. That's the best spot there, I think. Okay, I'll turn off the modulation. And we now have a 0 reading on the meter, which is interesting. Perhaps I just wasn't putting enough signal into it for it to work. Yeah, 0. The lowest possible reading is there. But I think I prefer the AM modulation method, so back on with the modulation. Well, there we go. Now with a lower output from the signal generator, you've got AM modulation coming through there. Just give it a bit more. And it is disappearing entirely. There. Reappears there. So that's our null point right there. Well, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, so they say, so let's just see what the FM sounds like.
Trade. Helping business is our trade.
The LDV work van range. All kinds of work vans for all kinds of work. Vans for big work. Vans for green work.
We've got ads on at least, so no copyright problems.
Vans for even.
That doesn't sound great.
And now, introducing the new
It certainly doesn't sound any better than it did before.
with a 7-diesel auto with a 7-year warranty from just $42,490.
I'll try another station. That's awful. That sounds dreadful. Okay, well, I might have to revert to the third method of adjusting this thing, and that is to just turn the bloody thing until it sounds all right. So, excuse me while I just do that. Now, I can't have that music going because of copyright, so I'll probably have to do this off camera. I'll cut it out and see what I need to do. Make sure I've got it tuned properly. I've been fiddling with this IF can and I've managed to free up the other slug in it. So that's actually adjustable now, so I thought I may as well do an IF alignment now that I can do one properly. Now to inject the signal, it tells you to put it into the grid of, I think, the first IF valve. I'm not sure, but I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is this. It'll focus. This is the ECC85. I'll put a piece of wire, I don't know if you can see it there, down between the sleeve, the metal sleeve, and the valve, insulated from the metal with masking tape. And I'm going to put the signal in there. So we're set up to go, more or less. I've got the signal generator set up to 10.7 megahertz, and I just checked it again to make sure it hadn't drifted or anything. So I'll attach that to the wire on the ECC85. That should be alright, and the other side goes to ground anywhere. This will do. Turning it on. I'll wait for it to warm up and we'll see if we get a reading on the meter. I'll just adjust the output of the signal generator until we see something. Just turn the output up a bit. Would help if I set the meter properly. Yeah, so we are getting a reading on the meter. I don't know why that reading doesn't vary as I increase the output. If I unhook that, it doesn't make any difference, so that's obviously not working. Okay, what's happening here? So I'm now following the instructions. I'm feeding the signal into the grid of the ECH81, which is the mixer oscillator, via a small capacitor, and it seems to be working all right. I'll just turn up the signal generator until I get a reasonable reading on the meter. That will do there. So now we adjust these two. So let's just see if we can get anything out of this this little trimmer. Yes, going up, going up, going up. Going up a lot. Of course I did mess with this slug. Alright, let's just turn the signal down again to about there. Yeah, I did mess with this slug a bit trying to loosen it, but I don't think I moved it that far. Anyway. Still going up, and that's its peak there. Going down again, so I'll just peak it there. Now this one, it's going down, back up, going down, back up, so it was pretty much on its peak. Alright, let's just see if I can get this one peaked a bit better too. No, it was just about right. Well, that's about as good as I can get it. I'm not sure if it's perfect or not. I'm not sure if my ears are perfect or not, but I seem to be able to do better by ear than trying to do it with a meter. Anyway, I'm just about ready to put this back in the box, so let's do that. I have done an RF alignment as best I can. The scale on this is really basic. We've got 87.5 megahertz here, 90, 95 marked here, and 100 here, and a series of dots, or dashes rather. It's pretty hard to see what lines up with what, so you can only really guess. You can't get pinpoint accuracy with it anyway. It wasn't too bad to start with. I think I've got it a little bit better, and I did it by using the frequencies of known stations, because I can't really use the signal generator for this effectively. Well, I've been doing a bit of work on the cabinet, and it's come up really nicely with not much effort at all. All I did was give it a thorough clean, and a lot of the marks came off with that. There were coffee rings and stains on it, but they all came out. It left the timber dry but all intact. So then I just gave it a coat of this dark restoring and new timber polish. It's basically a furniture wax. Any other furniture wax probably would have done just the same, but that's what I've got. It does put a slight colour into it, but I'd say this is very close to the original colour. I'm lucky with this one because the grill cloth's in very good condition. It's virtually unmarked. There was a slight amount of staining around the speaker, which I was able to get out. I took the speaker out to check it and just gave it a basic clean. It had a bit of fluff on it, but it's in good condition. Dual cone, which is a little bit unusual. It's not terribly big. It's what would that be, 6 inches possibly, but it moves freely, there's no scraping, so that can go right back in. It's not very big, but I noticed that the sound on the radio is quite bass heavy, and I suspect that that's been done deliberately to compensate for the speaker. So it might be surprising how it sounds in the cabinet. We'll just have to see. Now the next thing to do is to add this front piece in. This is where the keys, the push button keys sit, and this was broken right through where this screw hole goes in. I've super glued that back and I've let it set. It seems to be pretty strong. I'll have to be a little bit careful with it, but that would explain why it was moving so much when you press the keys, because it just wasn't even attached this end. So this goes in this way. Sorry, that way. Is that right? Yes, like that. And a couple of screws go down there through there to hold it, and then these 2 little chrome plated pieces that fit over the top. So with that on, the next thing is the dial, and it didn't need a lot of work. It has a crack through the corner here, which I've managed to hide reasonably well just by putting super glue in from the other side, and it bled through the crack. That will stabilise it as well as hiding it. You can see it from some angles, but it's a lot better than it was to start with, so that's probably the best I can do with that. And that just goes in here and screws on with these 2 screws with matching coloured heads. So now time to turn it around and put the chassis in. So here we go. I've been doing a little bit of cleaning up on this. It's as clean as I can reasonably get it. Not perfect though, but it's not bad. Okay, we've got the magic eye tube just getting in the way down there. Take that out. There's the speaker wires, and this should now just push in. Should, whether it will or not. Yep, there we go. Just putting the knobs back on, and they had these little metal discs, and I realised that that's the reason the knobs have these little springs behind them, because otherwise that thing would shake around. Not having felt pads, there's just nothing to hold them in place. That's the wrong one. That goes on there like that. Luckily the knobs are all original and in really nice condition after they're cleaned up. There we go. This one's the gram or radio switch, and it has a little mark on it. All the others don't have a mark. There we go. And that, I think, is a very nice looking radio. Let's just plug it in and see how it sounds in the cabinet. Okay, so it's warmed up. This is on FM. It's a community radio station, Curtin FM.
Dash jobs. Or call 1800 07 9098.
Station sponsor.
When it comes to food safety and protecting yourself and your family from getting sick, how many times a day do you think you should wash your hands? Twice a day? 3 times a day? Maybe 5 times? What if I said you should always wash your hands after using the toilet or changing a nappy, after blowing your nose, after touching animals?
Yeah, okay, I think I can work that out for all by myself.
You've been bunkered down this past year. You've been investing in yourself, looking after yourself, writing new music. Do you find that?
There's a bit of noise here from the fluoros, but so that'll be ABC Classic FM.
This actually happened.
Yeah, you could tell. There was a bit of pain behind.
Don't think there's anything else up there. Okay, well that's not too bad. Let's just try AM.
As a fun car that stands out and is a bit different, they're pretty cool. Jack from Canberra. G'day, Jack.
Hey, how you going?
Not bad.
Vacancy for mental health nurses. And if you looked at the
14.3 stores that they openly selling, they're up on the shelves.
And you never know, we might even pick up a little bit of shortwave this time of day. It's getting towards evening.
Quốc và Việt Nam đã giành được thành tích vượt bậc. Sở dĩ chúng ta đạt được nhiều thành tích.
Well, there you go. There's something about Philips radios. Doesn't matter what you do, there's always trouble of some sort. This would have to be the best example I've ever seen of how not to do an FM alignment, and I suggest if you're considering doing one yourself, don't take any information from this. It's pretty awful. I don't know if my signal generators can be resurrected. I'll pull it apart, but I don't hold that much hope. So it looks like I'll have to be replacing that. And when I do, maybe I'll have another look at the alignment, although it does sound pretty good now, so long as you get it exactly in the middle of the station. There's no real distortion. The sound on this is not bad for its size. It's only got a small speaker, so I suppose I shouldn't expect miracles. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this. It's been a bit of a job. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye for now.